luck.
All right.
Awesome. I think we are live. That's super cool. So hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning into what I think will be an awesome webinar. We're going to talk about HubSpot's digital customer success engine or customer success engine. And we hope to cover anything from their digital strategy to their team, the tools, and hopefully also some practical tactics that they use to absolutely win. HubSpot's massive. So I think we can say that, well, they've won or they're close to winning. I don't know. But it's at least something of that regard. And to help me make sense of this, I am joined by none other than Colleen O'Sullivan, who's the VP of Integrated Customer Experience at HubSpot. Hi.
Hi. How are we all today on this fantastic July evening?
Definitely.
Where you're calling from, or where you're joining from.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me, Remco.
Yeah. Awesome. And thanks for accepting. Super psyched to talk about what HubSpot's doing. We're also a HubSpot user, so I've also experienced some of the things that we will be talking about. So I think it's good. I think it's super cool. And on an important note as well, I believe you recently got promoted.
I did.
First of all, congratulations. I think that's
you.
Always awesome. And second of all, I just mentioned the title, VP of Integrated Customer Experience. Can you maybe explain what the role entails? Because I think it's not a title that many people have heard before.
No, it shouldn't be, because I think we actually just made it up. So literally, and that's okay, right? Like that's what growing a customer success organization is all about, is understanding, what your customers' needs are and delighting them. And basically what we discovered over the last 6 months is that HubSpot, the business, and how we serve our customers, as well as all the different, hubs that we have now. And it's a platform business, right? So we needed to figure out a different way that we were going to service our customers. So like you said, I just started this new role 7 months ago. And the idea behind it is that we have 3 different pillars within the customer success organization. We've got a support organization, a services organization, and of course, a success organization. And the integrated customer experience team is meant to support those 3 pillars with different specialists underneath it. So within my team, we're going to have, like I said, these varied specialist teams that help with pre-sales, implementation, and understanding how do you within the pre-sale process, help customers understand, how to achieve their goals with customer success. We have some post-sales technical architecture folks. These people are basically, working with existing customers to better understand what their technical needs are and make recommendations as to best how to solve them. And then we've got a partner scaled team, a partner scaled services team. And this team basically project manages, comes up with accreditation, works with partners to help them take the services that HubSpot creates and do it for HubSpot. So we've been doing this on an experimental basis with a bunch of partners globally. For our onboarding, and we hope to expand that to more service offerings in this year and into next year. And then we've got an entire replatforming team. So these folks of specialists focus on migrations of HubSpot. So if you come to HubSpot and you want to migrate your website, so that's something that they do, and we hope to expand their work in the future. And then we've got a team that we're going to be growing and expanding. So this is a plug if you're interested in HubSpot and customer experience. We're growing a customer experience team. And this team is basically going to take the recommendations, the data from NPS, from voice of the customer, and make better recommendations to the rest of the pillars in terms of how to basically implement those recommendations across the customer journey. So, ultimately, this team is sort of supporting the pillars and all of our customers throughout the customer journey It's brand new. We haven't done this before at HubSpot, so I really am super excited. I feel honored to be able to take this on and kind of figure out these challenges, and obviously create a delightful customer experience along the way.
Perfect ending. Yeah, thank you for that. That sounds like quite the challenge. So one question I had already is, because you're basically, the role spans a whole lot of responsibility. So is that also what you guys mean with an integrated customer experience? So that's also why the word is there.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not just for one pillar, and it's not just, a service offering we're going to give or, create for one set of customer. It's really meant to be, okay, like this is an offering. These are some specialists. This is a set of tools that these specialist teams have. Support, services, and success should all benefit from it. And we should be thinking about, as a team, how are we supporting all of these different pillars, not just one. So we really are kind of digging into our metrics now, figuring out, okay, what does good look like if we're to successfully support services, which would look different than how we support success versus how we support support. So, that's the sort of integrated play there too.
Super cool. Awesome. So thank you for explaining. And also, in regards to the plug, if anyone's interested, we'll definitely share how to get in touch with Colleen afterwards. So
yes,
don't fret.
Lots of action going on, not just my team, but across all HubSpot, in particular with HubSpot Success. So
exactly.
Look me up on the LinkedIn.
Exactly. Cool. So before we kick off, very, very quick housekeeping. First of all, before anyone asks, yes, we will record and share the webinar. Don't fret. Don't take too many notes unless you really want to. Obviously, not here to tell you not to, but we will definitely also share the recording. So that's awesome. And secondly, also love to keep things interactive. Already see some people talking in chat. That's awesome. Continue to do so. And also, if you have any other questions that you would like to see brought up into the conversation, post them in the chat as well. And I'll do my best and fit them in whenever I can. Are you ready, Colleen?
I'm born ready to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so as it's in fashion, I don't feel like we need it anymore, but as it's in fashion these days, let's do very quick, small icebreaker. This is one that you see everywhere, I think, but doesn't really matter. What are the 3 things that you would take to a deserted island, and why?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been on a deserted island, right? With this pandemic and lockdown. My house has been my deserted island, except there's no tropical climate here in Ireland, and there's no crystal clear blue water. But despite that, right, I'm excited to go to an island. I'm obviously going to take my family because they're pretty amazing, and I think I wouldn't be able to survive without them. I would take a Bible because I'd probably be doing a ton of praying to get off the island at one stage. Even though I love my family, we'd probably lose our mind at some stage, right? So we'd be down. I'd be, doing lots of that praying. And again, the Bible's pretty long, so I'm sure there's lots of stories, to get through. Or either the Bible or War and Peace or something really long that, can distract us. I suppose I'd have to take something practical as well, like a knife. Not that I would want to kill my family, but again, back to the Bible and the praying, that would wear it down. Or a magnifying glass, because that would at least I'd be able to, look at bugs. The kids are really into bugs right now. Magnifying glass, but I guess you can also make fire.
Magnifying glass, very useful. Could take it as well.
Yeah. So that's me.
There you go. Awesome. I love that I like that you started with family. With the last time I asked this question to someone, there were 3 objects, and then afterwards someone said, or the guy said, "Oh crap, forgot about my girlfriend," who I could only imagine was in the room with him, obviously, because we were all working from home. So we can avoid the very awkward conversation about this time. That's good. So let's get started for real.
That and a knife. So I don't know. I mean, that could be awkward as well.
Could be. So getting started for real now. HubSpot, everyone knows HubSpot, massive organization. Probably also everyone that's on this call right now is either working with it or has worked with it at some point in their career. So I think it's cool to paint a little bit of a picture of the CS organization within HubSpot first. So you already briefly highlighted some of the teams or at least responsibilities that you have, but can you maybe cover a little bit more in depth? What does that look like for your CS org? How many sort of, reports do you have? What is it structured like?
Yeah, so I'll get into maybe the historical, and then of course, like we talked a little bit about my new team, but historically the CS team at HubSpot is probably very similar to, if you have a CS organization, it's probably similar to the average one. We have a support function, and within support, we have PEs, so these are product experts. We have community, which we'll be obviously talking a little bit about today. We have our specific support specialists, and they're run by that team is run by a global leader. We have regional leaders that look after the support organization here in EMEA, and then in JPAC, and then obviously in North America. So that's one pillar within CS, the support. And I'm sure if you're a HubSpot customer, you've interacted with support at some stage. Well, I hope you've interacted with support. Our support folks just have just amazing NPS, and the overall customer love for support is just so high. We also have a services team, which is made up of our pro services folks. These are people that basically do sort of additional training for our HubSpot customers. So it's more of a paid for service. And these services could be technical in nature. They could be more consultative and sort of include different aspects of our platform. They could be in the sort of realm of classroom training as well, and sort of more of a group setting. This used to be a live in-person training. Yeah. Now, obviously, it's over the phone. And then there's some, personalized professional services that we offer as well for folks that need just something extra. On top of that, within services, we also have our onboarding team. And so if you are a new HubSpot customer, or you at some stage purchased upgraded your HubSpot account, you've gone through some sort of onboarding with HubSpot. And this is really where when you first get started with HubSpot, we teach you the ropes, right? And hopefully we do a good job at hand-holding you in terms of getting your setup and your integration, and sort of getting you on the right track with HubSpot. So that's our services team. And then we have our success organization. And this team is basically comprised of our strategic account specialists. We've got our CSMs. We've got our channel consultants that work with our partners. And then we've got our contract managers that sort of help with any billing related queries or whatnot. And within success, we have sort of a low touch, high touch approach, depending upon sort of the service needs that you might have. And so those are the sort of the three pillars and the different roles within the pillars. Like I just mentioned, we have global leaders that look after each of the pillars. And then within each region, we have leaders that sort of, sit over each of these pillars as well, with different teams that look after them inside of each team. So historically, over the last 8 years, my role was really to look after the EMEA success and services organization. So I have had the benefit of moving over to Dublin, Ireland 8 years ago to help start and build the CS organization from a team of 5, and we built it to, I think it's 150 different folks across services and success. And in the last 7 days, like Remco said at the start, I just got promoted to a global role looking after this integrated customer experience team. And the idea, like I said earlier, behind the integrated customer experience team is that we're supporting these 3 pillars of support, services, and success with different specializations that my team will run, and help sort of alleviate some of the burden, so we can, teams within each of the pillars can focus on, sort of their main task at hand, and these specialist teams can sort of alleviate some of that additional work that these other teams were facing in order to sort of provide better services. And the idea is obviously that we're sort of agnostic across all pillars, but we have a really good sense of what the customer journey is so that we can, help make recommendations, sort of help identify maybe if there's, teams that are crossing over, awkward handovers, things like that, where, we kind of have a better line of sight of what's happening across that whole customer experience. And we're sort of able to influence and make recommendations in terms of how to just create a better overall customer experience.
Yeah, awesome. So I have a question about goals, especially regarding customer experience. But first, we have a question about tomorrow, which I think, belongs with what you just said. So you mentioned having like a high touch, low touch sort of thing. What's the core ingredient for segmentation there within HubSpot? Is it ARR, or do you also look? And she's asking, do you also look at share of wallet available, for example? How does that work?
Yeah, it is ARR for sure. Basically, our segmentation is based off of like customer need and how they want to be serviced, right? And there's obviously customers that are smaller in nature, and they have more of an ability to work faster. And we're going to talk a little bit about like our Tech Touch program here today. But certainly we want to be able to meet customers with a customer experience that makes the most sense for them, right? So whether you're a small customer or a large customer, you will get similar services, whether that's low touch or high touch. Some of our really, really big customers really require more one-on-one attention, right? Just because of their size and the nature of their business. Some of our smaller customers really are able to kind of get on with a lot of the self-service products that we offer, as well as our one-to-many customer success organizations. So yeah, we look at ARR, but also we're trying to better understand what our customers' needs are and how do we meet them where they're at. So
that's pretty cool. So is it something that you actively ask then, maybe at the start of a relationship or something?
Yeah, I think it's something that so if you needed more high touch services, right, and you needed more one-on-one, we have it, right? It's not that it's not available for you. It may be a paid service, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't get the opportunity to take advantage of it.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense. And then very quickly onto sort of customer experience and goals. You just explain sort of the difference between the general CS org and your new organization now. So how does that differ in goals? Do you then also adopt the same goals that the customer success team, for example, has because you're supporting them, or do you have a whole separate set of goals regarding customer experience or something that you need to hit there?
Yeah, right now, the idea is that if we're, metriced off something that didn't, align with the customer success team, that probably wouldn't make a ton of sense, because our job is to make, service and success and support, better, right? So I think, overall, obviously our North Star metric within customer success is revenue retention. So, that's going to be a big focus of ours. But within each of the different teams, like every organization, there's going to be, different metrics that each teams are sort of, we look at. So we'll be making sure that we have a few different KPIs to see what success best looks like. So it's not just going to be one particular metric like rev retention, but that's going to be up there. We'll have some leading indicators to, what success looks like, and make sure that that's part of how, we see success within our organization. Like I said, the team has literally come together in the last 7 days. It took a few months for us to get here, of course, but I think, given that I've just kind of got started, that's my job now, is to figure out, how do we dig in with the different 3 pillars and figure out, how do they want us to support them, so that we can better define what are the right metrics that we need to keep ourselves accountable.
Okay, so let's give you some time there then, I guess.
Thanks.
So maybe moving on. So as I was prepping for this webinar, obviously we mainly want to talk about digital, which we will, but I think also before we get there, what usually happens at a company when you start thinking about a digital strategy, or at least I have to say, this is what currently usually happens. I don't necessarily think this is the right way or the right order to approach this, but what usually happens is that you sort of end up in what we call the scale problem. So what that means, at least in our terms, is that your business is growing faster than you can basically grow your team. So you don't necessarily have the means or the budget to grow your team linearly with the growth of your business, which then becomes a problem because your team becomes swamped and gets submerged in maybe a pile of support requests or something like that. So I thought HubSpot is probably the number one company that I can ask about this, as you guys have been growing like crazy for years now. So how did you guys approach this problem, or maybe still do? And also, what are some of the practical tips you found that you can especially help out with scaling sort of the workload or making sure that your CSMs don't get swamped?
Yeah. So I think one of the strongest elements of our entire success organization is marrying, training and documentation together, right? Because in terms of making sure that CSMs don't get swamped by support type questions, we want to make sure that CSMs get skilled up on product updates. Like, it's absolutely imperative that they have a good understanding of the product. But our product, as you and many of you may know on the call, is like pretty far reaching. So there's going to be some things that our CSMs are just not experts on. And that's kind of like where, again, back to my team, that specialization is going to hopefully help those CSMs out. But CSMs still need to know how our tool works and have a general understanding of how they can help customers succeed with HubSpot, right? You can't build a strong relationship with a customer if you don't have an idea of how to solve general problems with the product. So I think, again, combine that training piece for CSMs with having up-to-date, thorough documentation is absolutely key. So, when I think about some of the documentation that we do have accessible for CSMs, we have a ton. I think it's like 10,000 different solutions in our community and hundreds upon hundreds of knowledge base articles that that CSMs can utilize, as well as our customers. And it basically enables our CSMs to answer questions and encourage not only just CSMs to answer those questions, but for our customers to help them self-serve as well by, obviously utilizing the resources themselves. So we're investing in training, we're investing in documentation, but obviously we want to be able to, create better relationships when we've got a customer on the phone call and not necessarily just focus on answering a question that you could probably self-service yourself, or, answer. Yeah. So I guess that's just the way that we're kind of handling that. CSMs not getting swamped by support questions. They've got training, they've got great documentation, and it's sort of a combination of the two.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I really like that. I also think this is like the pinnacle of a digital customer success strategy, probably as well, is making sure that there's this online environment where all of the necessary customer success or customer content or something else is just readily available and easily found. Is that then also the advice you would give smaller companies, for example, just starting out and building their digital presence, also their digital customer success presence, is to just focus on finding a way to provide training, educational material, those kinds of things digitally for their customers first?
Yeah, I love this question because I think, smaller SaaS companies, what are the sort of the first things that they need to be putting in place? And before I sort of say, yeah, you should do what HubSpot does, it really depends on what your company's customers and strategy is, right? So I would start asking yourself some questions and, what do your customers need you to be great at? And what do your customers, what do they value? And then this should help guide your technology strategy, which is like some of that self-service options that you may have available for your customers. Or, what are the certain channels that you might need as a smaller SaaS company need to put in place? So, for example, if your customers are looking for speed on quick how-to transactional questions as a first step, you may want to just set up an FAQ page, right? That's sort of a simple, place where all your customers can go to answer, get quick help, or even a help center, right? And the other thing, which a lot of our customers are doing, is I see like more and more, is just having a chatbot on your website. So leveraging chatbots. If you haven't checked out our conversations tool, it's a shameless plug for doing that. But so that's one thing. If it's speed or how-to transactional questions, FAQs, chatbots, help centers. But if your customers value more of like that thoroughness and managing complexity in their engagements with you, I think it's more about, figuring out how do you establish, an intake form to sort of, scale the information, gather information that your customers may need to empower your team to answer and think through problems and come back with an effective, solution via whether it's phone or email. And I think it's all about like scalability, right? So, how do you scalably engage your customer base? What would help them realize value with your products or services? What are the data points that you have to indicate whether a customer is on track or realizing value with your offering? So I think there's a whole bunch of questions that folks need to answer. And I think there's a bunch of data that you probably need to determine in terms of how do you personalize the approach with customers again, and make sure that like the way that you're servicing them is helping your customers realize their goals. So it's not, I wouldn't say just do what we do. I'd say listen to your customers, better understand what they value, what their needs are, and then work back from that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And often forgotten, unfortunately. I think it's also a nice bridge to the digital side of CS, or the digital side of things. So obviously lately it's been super trendy to talk about digital customer success, or you see digital customer success manager pop up now, all those kinds of things. I think also at the beginning of the year, we said like it would be the biggest growth sort of job title in the industry. But it's actually not really new, right? Because especially also around HubSpot, for as long as I have actually worked with HubSpot, there's always been this massive emphasis on trying to do things yourself in a digital way, whether it indeed is the easy, accessible sort of support team, but also making sure that there are FAQs everywhere. You obviously have a massive community on which I've also more often than not been voting on, I don't know, feature requests and ideas and reporting stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then you have bots and all those things. So how important is sort of a digital strategy still in your customer success approach and for your team?
Oh, it's very, very, very important. As you just mentioned, like there's a whole bunch of different ways that HubSpot's actually implementing on this. I think some people worry that, is technology taking away from the human-led engagement? But I think we believe the opposite. Technology is actually helping us optimize our human-led engagements. So meaning that we can maximize the why, the how, and the where we invest our employees' time to help, our customers more efficiently and effectively, and to help us scale our businesses. So we're constantly looking at our tech stack and trying to better understand like what are the things that we need. And so we are striving to create a tech-led and tech-augmented experience. So we believe that there's tons of opportunities for technology to empower self-service and help customers realize value faster. Our customers want answers faster, right? This week is a week of rest for HubSpot. So if you're trying to get in touch with HubSpot support or your CSM, you may be running into some challenges on a one-on-one experience, but you should be able to get some, fast answers, even though we're not online. Like you said, we have a news page, we have a chat bot. There's also like lots of other opportunities for folks to get answers that they need, and that needs to happen in this world that we're living in.
Yeah. So does that mean that also digital is for you guys and now on like 100% scale, the first line of defense? Basically, everyone needs to go to sort of digital touch points in order to also eventually get to a team if they need one?
No, not necessarily. I think that's the fine line. It's depending upon, sort of what you need and when you need it. I think these like sort of, like I mentioned earlier, these sort of transactional, quick one-off, how do I do this, set this up, turn this on, that, is pretty self-explanatory, right? And you should be able to find that at the touch of a button. But when it comes to some more intricate relationship type experiences that may require a little bit more knowledge, deeper dive, understanding of like what who the customer is, what's happening within their business, what their goals are, you need a human to sort of understand that and be able to be strategic. And we want to make sure that you get that when you need it as well.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's also a clear definition of where the cutoff point needs to be between sort of what you think your customers should be able to do themselves and what they need your team for. So as you just mentioned it being sort of like a tech-led model, or more increasingly being a tech-led model. So can you take us on a small journey through your tech stack? Because obviously you probably use HubSpot for this. So definitely lead with that. But also, are you using other tools that are helping you make your teams more efficient?
Yeah, right. I think at HubSpot, we say, we drink our own champagne, we eat our own dog food, whatever you want to say. But yes, in terms of our customer-facing teams, HubSpot runs on, surprise, HubSpot. So I think this is really obviously fantastic because our internal product teams build on top of the software that we obviously extend to our end customers. So then we can create this really important tight feedback loop to help us build a better software and better end solution for our customers over time. So I think that's really critical that we do that. And we talk a lot about, that HubSpot, drinks its own champagne and we use HubSpot. So that's really important. And it's, been a big driver of our success over the last while. But for things like data ingestion or analytics or reporting, we use tools like Snowflake and Looker as our primary data tools, so that we have clean, reliable data insights and we're able to action those. We also use more advanced tooling such as Python for data efficiency and modeling. And then for our community, we host that on Khoros. And we use the Khoros Slack integration in our own HubSpot Slack instance. We work closely with that internal ticketing system and CRM for keeping track of customers who are in the community as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I think also probably the most sort of commonly used tools and channels already mentioned there. Are there any other sort of digital channels that you would say are important for your team that you haven't yet already mentioned? So you mentioned community, the websites, obviously Q&A, those kinds of things. But recently, for example, I've also heard about these sort of tools where you can actually automate part of your, MBR process, those kinds of things.
I think that's pretty much like those are the main tools that we use. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So we already mentioned community briefly. As we're a community vendor, I always try to hide it, but I can't. Love to talk about community. So just very, very briefly, want to talk about the HubSpot community because it's huge, but I feel like it's also quite prominent in all of the interactions that you would have with the HubSpot team. So I at least felt like I was often redirected to the community because there would be this wealth of knowledge around a certain, feature that I was trying to use or request that I had or something like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our customers also sort of try and position community as this central customer hub for content. Anything you need in terms of like basic questions, things you don't need the team for, you will find there. Is that also, I know you don't lead the community team. I know Scott Wilder does, who is awesome, by the way. But is that also a similar approach at HubSpot? Are you also trying to make that community and also that community feel centered to all of your interactions, also from a success perspective?
Yeah, I mean, the community should act as that sort of central hub for all conversations around HubSpot, and we definitely see that. I think our community is a true representation of all HubSpot enthusiasts. We have everyone from free users to customers to partners to employees in our community engaging and connecting and helping one another. Isn't that what a community is all about? And I think that, we've seen a lot of external contributors build their brands through, being thought leaders on our community. And they're able to sort of host proactive content and share workarounds, offer blog posts directly into the audience of HubSpot enthusiasts. So that's amazing. And that there's like a ton of different opportunities that are presenting themselves through our community. And I think that that's kind of endless. A lot of freelancers are getting business, or partners are getting business through this channel. Even individuals seeking new professional opportunities are able to promote themselves in the community. Anecdotally, we've actually hired 5. I'm not sure the exact number, but around of our
through the community. I mean, like
the community. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, why not? These guys know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's like customers can get like a second opinion on different things, that they're eager to kind of connect with other HubSpotters as well, or peers within the community. So there's a laundry list of pros for sort of creating that central hub, building it out, and getting like HubSpot enthusiasts just to come together and share the love.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I very quickly had to ask my children if they could be silent. Apparently, this episode of Paw Patrol is not roping them in. What I wanted to get to is how communities basically become a part of your customer experience strategy, or if it has. So are you also leveraging data, for example, from the community of how customers are actually engaging with each other, or certain accounts that you might be focusing on from a CS perspective? Has been engaging with content in the HubSpot community, for example, to learn or, use to educate other customers? Is community is it basically a channel that's part of your digital strategy in the sense that your CSMs would also use it for that, or?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think our CSMs are constantly, directing people to the community. I think it's interesting. We actually have a community manager, or the community manager team. They sit within support, which I think is amazing, because that means that they're close to our product and they're trained in customer support. So it's kind of a great foundation for sustaining and scaling a knowledgeable, human-oriented community, right? They understand what's happening within like product. They understand sort of like the interaction between, what's happening with this enthusiast community, as well as what's happening within our CS organization. So we partner really closely, as a CS organization, we partner super closely with the community, because we do need to learn from them. Like, what are some of these top questions that we have? How can we better answer them? How can we better, empower our teams to kind of have the right answers there, so that our customers can better self-serve. And I think that, back to your, initial question on the community, we see a lot of our teams going into the community to host like an AMA, okay, you have a big onboarding question, or we just launched a hub. So, we'll host an event on the community where, people or customers or enthusiasts can ask any questions to the team or share, frequently asked questions. So I think it's a great opportunity for, our team's contributor to get content associated back to, again, like I mentioned, that sort of professional brand. But the CS organization is very entwined with what happens within the community, and we have the great part of it is that part of the team is within the CS organization, so we're able to keep a close pulse on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a major data source, right? So it's that's pretty awesome to see. And then maybe also, because you also mentioned it earlier already regarding data and sort of like data sources that you can employ to personalize certain messaging within a digital strategy, or at least make sure that people feel like they're having an experience that is somewhat personalized for them. So what data sources would you then look for if you're trying to build out a strategy for a certain segment of customers, for example?
I mean, I think that we have to just go back to our North Star metric, which is rev retention, within CS. So we're constantly looking at rev retention as sort of a source for understanding, are our customers growing? Are they happy? Are they healthy? And are they, again, seeing great traction with HubSpot? That's the main metric across CS, and sort of everything else leads into that. Like I said earlier, different teams have different specialized metrics depending on what they're focused on. So obviously NPS, for example, within support is a huge metric. We want to make sure that our customers are really getting value out of. Our NPS in general is something that we dig deep into within CS, understanding where is the pain and trying to solve for that, the trends with pain points as best as we can. Pain doesn't always come from the CS organization. It can come from product and other places too. But, that's where, as a business, as a company, we are aligning ourselves holistically, to better understand, again, when you see something through NPS that doesn't necessarily work, to kind of tightly align to that and make sure that we're solving for it. But again, it depends on, the metrics really depend on the business or the pillar that you're focused in on, and making sure, I think in general, that our customers are growing with HubSpot. And so that's, when it comes to growth, it's all about, rev retention. And a big aspect of rev retention, for those of you that are in CS, is really customer dollar retention. And what that comes down to is our customers sticking with us, right? Are you happy? Are you, renewing? And so that's I think that's the driver. And so, you see community play a part in that. Is, we definitely see trends like customers that utilize the community, that utilize support, that utilize our self-service options tend to have stronger rev retention results than other customers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we want to make sure that more customers are going in that direction.
Yeah, so in that case, for example, usage of a community or usage of a certain feature that does well or something else could be a leading indicator, eventually leading up to a goal like rev retention or something that that obviously is lagging, so you would see a little bit later. But you would look for those leading indicators to basically help you fuel your sort of strategy there or something. Yeah, I think that's awesome. So the other thing that I saw, which I thought was really cool, was that and I know they don't report into you, but I noticed that you guys have this sort of tech touch team, or at least a whole team, also with analysts and other sort of very data-driven roles that are sort of, I think, also helping shape the sort of digital and tech touch strategy, or at least are crunching a lot of the numbers. So do you guys also work with that team? Are they like a partner or something building this strategy?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They are a partner to the work that we do. We don't have a ton of close connection to the individual teams that are sort of driving the Tech Touch program. Sorry, the internet dropped a little bit, so I think I may have missed the tail end of your question. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking...
Yes, we're back.
Oh my gosh, yay. Panic at the Disco.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it did give us the time to talk about my plant, which was good. And then also, get some additional questions in. So happy you're back. Well, I think it's good to let's just quickly get started with an audience question just to get back into the ropes. So Eugene was asking about customer segmentation and customer success tiers. And I know at the beginning you already mentioned that some of the segmentation is also, or at least between like high touch, low touch, is also based on customer preference. And I think Eugene is now asking how to do that in a scalable way. So how can you actually make sure that you can scale that question and also scalably get that answer from your customers if they would want to choose?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We're not like presenting to customers, do you want low touch? Do you want high touch? It's more of, if there's certain aspects of a high touch model where you need one-on-one attention to solve a problem or challenge, you're working in a low touch model. So you're working with a one-to-many team or through our Tech Touch program. You should have the option to like self-select or self-service and learn more about our professional services where you would get, that one-on-one attention, right? So you may not have a, one-on-one interaction with a CS representative every day, but if you needed to, solve a particular problem or get you through a particular situation that you were going through, then that service is available to you, and you should, know how to access it. And obviously, there would be an additional cost that's associated with it. But all that is sort of at hand versus something that you get, from an everyday experience. So to your point, yeah, you can't. Not every customer of ours is going to have, a one-to-one experience with a CS rep. We have to, obviously make sure that the right customers are getting that experience, and more of our sort of, larger customers or bigger enterprise customers really need that. They need to be talking to a CS reps.
Yeah, exactly. So super practically, does that then also mean that I, as a customer, for example, can call up my CSM, Rosie, in this case? Yeah, I can basically tell her, look, my preferred way of communicating with you guys is just through digital channels, those kinds of things. I don't need check-ins or something like that. And then she would be able to just, I don't know, move me to like a digital pool or something.
Yeah, exactly. You'd move into our one-to-many team, right? And I think there's different behaviors that our customers take within HubSpot that we're able to see on the back end to say, oh, okay, this customer is really self-sufficient, and they don't necessarily need this one-on-one attention anymore. So, over time, we're trying to better understand what are the behaviors our customers are taking behind the scenes, not necessarily like telling us, but they're doing certain things within the product, within the tool. They're self-sufficient where we can say, aha, all right, these customers probably, don't necessarily need that one-on-one attention that we've been offering them because they don't really take advantage of it, but they're doing really well and they're growing and they're successful.
Yeah. So, and if that's proactively done by you or your team, is that then also something that you let the customer know?
Yeah, if we're switching their service model and, they're not going to be getting one-on-one attention anymore, then, we do let them know, hey, we're switching the way that we're servicing you to more of a one-to-many approach. This is the team that you'd be working with. Here's the alias. Here's the information that you're going to be needing. And obviously, if they push back and there's some concerns there, we're going to listen to them.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the moment, right? It's the transition. I think that's also the struggle bus for a lot of companies trying to make this transition is how do I tell my customers without pissing them off, basically.
Yeah, right. And I think for the most part, if we get the data right, we understand, again, those behaviors, then we don't get a ton of pushback, right? They understand, right? They understand that, but if they take certain other behaviors that indicate, hey, actually, maybe you do need to come back into this, one-to-few service model, then we'll move you back, right? It's not that you're there for life. It's, we're continuously being and watching and evaluating, the behaviors that our customers are taking and moving them to the right place.
Yeah, I think Brian from Looker on a previous webinar we did, he called it graduating customers because they are now self-sufficient enough. They don't need us anymore. So it's like a graduation, which I think is still amazing.
Yeah.
I'll continue to use the example because it's
you're not going to get a diploma, but, we're going to give you obviously at least
just mad street credibility. You're now good enough that you don't need our team. I think I don't know. It does make sense, right? If they've invested so much time into actually being super proficient with your product, then yeah, why not? It's I actually think it's fun. So I want to do some quick audience questions because there are a few, and yeah, I have some more questions, but let's make sure that we knock those out of the park first. So we have Stacy, who's asking, apologies if you said this and missed it. Do you have a customer marketing organization within your team? And do they own the digital CS or DCM strategy?
We do have a customer marketing team. They are not on the customer success team. They're actually part of the marketing team. And we work really closely with them. Obviously, we have to partner closely with them because they need to understand, what are the challenges that we face that they may need to help us solve for. So the digital-led strategy, or so the tech strategy is managed by our RevOps team, which is part of our operations team, and they directly support the customer success business. So does that answer your question?
I think it does, but Stacy, do let us know if you have any other questions. And then there was also the question from Ashley McCullough, who says, can you talk about CS tactics at the beginning of a CS operation? So when the full year's ARR hasn't been reached yet. I think she means like when you have a lot of customers that are still within their first year. So they haven't yet renewed, or there is anything else, or at least I think that's what she means.
Yeah, Ashley, hopefully I can answer this question. I think the big piece of this is the initial setup, right? The onboarding experience that these first year customers have, right? And so at the end of that period of onboarding, depending upon how long your onboarding is, for us, we want to make sure that they are utilizing different tools within HubSpot. They're actually taking advantage of the maximum amount of tools that we think are the right tools for customers to, see success with. So that's a massive aspect of the first year is the onboarding experience, and then the handover between, the onboarding experience and then working with your customer success rep. Of course, this depends upon the products that you buy, et cetera. But for the most part, you go from onboarding into a sort of into an experience with the CSM